Mother, we've made it to Woodhurst. It is pretty much exactly as my previous reports have speculated. It is ramshackle, but a bit charming. I reconnected with Uza. She had left the ship a month or so ago. She is now the barmaid in Woodhurst. She gave me the news of the town. There have been no attacks here. It seems that the monsters are still wary of large populations. Silver, Vix, and Franklin are still with me. They don't seem to have any plans to go off on their own. We did stop to kill some alligators to sate Silver's need for hunting. Perhaps we can sell some of the meat for a bit more coin. I don't know how long I intend to stay in Woodhurst. I will see where the information leads me. Once I have followed all the leads, I'll head home. Watch well, Raz.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Delve and Dash right here at Proficiency Bonus. Once again, we are on our episode 2 of this wonderful D&D adventure that will only take 1 hour and 10 minutes of your time this evening, or whenever you catch it back on the vodcast on YouTube. Our episodes will go no longer than an hour and 10 minutes. So I hope you guys were able to catch up on episode 1. We aren't going to have too many announcements other than this episode is sponsored by DiceBard, our friends over at DiceBard who have come on board as a sponsor for us. If you go to dicebard.com, you can check out some of their merchandise, pick up some dice, and use the promo code PROBO in the checkout to get free expedited shipping on your orders. So you guys got a real quick recap through the lens of Raz in her letter home. Our party went on a brief journey following their new turtle friend, Franklin, to Woodhurst. And on the way, they stopped and were able to hunt a couple crocodiles for Silver to basically get the hide and also to get some food. And they made it into Woodhurst to meet a couple of interesting NPCs. Raz was able to reconnect with a couple of the shipmates aboard the dredging ship that she was a part of, the Lockjaw. And they were able to get some directions and some interesting quests given to them by Constrictor Griff, a gnome, an interesting gnome wanderer who found them in the tavern and sent them on missions to go gather some different animals and creatures that they could use to make poisons and antitoxins. And we ended the last episode with Constrictor Griff walking out of the Golden Gator. So that leaves us with you guys all in the Golden Gator at this point. And the adventure is yours. What would you guys like to do? I did have a question for Vix. When you did your disguise self into this dwarf, are you still wearing the orange vest, or is it kind of just do you look like you're not wearing this thing? Is it like just
I am 100% wearing the orange vest.
excellent? Okay, I just wanted to double check and make sure that that's what you wanted to do.
Okay.
All right, so the adventure and the story is yours. You guys are still hanging out in the Golden Gator. There are a lot of people around. You met the barkeep, Uza, the tiefling woman who has been kind of manning, bartending and mixing drinks and getting things ready for all the people that are in here. You met Barks, a drunkard. And there's other people around. Looks like a lot of people that you recognize, Raz, from being aboard the ship. But nobody really kind of like stands out as somebody that you know really well or have had too many excursions with. You've seen them on the ship and have prepared food for them, but that's about it.
Well, I will call everybody over. Vix, Franklin, you want to come over here and talk about something real fast?
Sure.
Well, because Raz is already sitting next to me, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we just got a job offer, if that's something you all were looking for, to hunt down a few different creatures out in the marsh or swamps. I think one of them was called Ubaga, and he gave me this sheet. and I hand it to Rix. So, does that sound like something you all are interested in?
Wait, who do you hand it to?
Raz. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, there's no way.
You did
I'm
it
gonna
this
do a
time.
character
named Rick.
Like, did you mean Vix?
And now I would like to introduce you to the fifth member of your party.
I think I would sort of look over it and be like, did he explain what any of these numbers meant?
I think so, but to be completely honest, not so hot with the numbers.
Yeah, don't worry, I kind of zoned out what he was talking to. Hoping you were paying attention.
He said eyeballs from the big toads. I know that, and I think those are worth 25 gold.
And then he was also talking about the small frogs for some amount.
Yes.
I don't know, this cider is really strong. I mean, might as well. We have nothing better to do. Gives a chance to go see the lay of the land around the area.
Do I happen to know where these frogs are?
Make a. Let's make it a nature check with advantage because you're from the area.
18.
Nice. The large frogs with the glowing eyes are, Franklin, much more rare than the smaller frogs. The smaller frogs, you can basically just go anywhere from the outskirts of Woodhurst, and you'd be able to quickly probably collect a bunch of these frogs. The larger frogs are a little bit more difficult because since they're so big, they kind of hang out in the deeper recess bogs. So the deeper valleys is where you tend to find those, more or less. And they're for their size, they're quite sneaky and can be really hard to catch. Most of the time, you only catch a glimmer of their shining blue eyes. That usually gives them away.
Well, these frogs are going to be really hard to find.
But do you know where we can find them?
We have to go to where valleys are, where the bog is going to be really deep, and for their size, they're quite sneaky.
I think he also said something about some kind of snake. Can't remember the name, but he wanted the venom from that also. Some kind of viper, I think.
Well, I don't know. We can see what we come across if we wanted to go wandering.
The only thing I need to do is I would like to pick up a shield before we head out. I mean, if we wanted to stay and rest for the night, we can do that also. Head out in the morning or head out now.
I wouldn't mind having a chance to connect with a few other people around town.
Okay. So you don't really have much of an issue going to pick up a shield, Silver. There aren't a lot of places to shop here. There is one store that has kind of like a hodgepodge of all kinds of different stuff, but a lot of the stuff is kind of homemade and hand built, as there is not really a place where large shipments are coming in. They'll get a barge every once in a while that'll be bringing stuff to the lockjaw, and they'll drop some things off at times, but just not a whole lot. But you're able to get a shield no problem.
Okay.
I can't remember how much shields cost in the player's handbook.
I think it's 10 gold.
Okay, you actually get your shield for 8 gold, not 10.
Okay, cool.
So, dealing with these poisonous frogs, I want to sort of walk around town to see if I could find any sort of natural antitoxin. I do have an herbalism kit, so I could make these.
Okay. You would have to kind of go out of town to like the outskirts, probably. You don't think, knowing nature as well as you do, there'll probably be some frogs, but probably not the variety that you're looking for. They'll probably be a little bit out of town. Not too far away though. So if you wanted to travel out of town a little bit, you could.
Oh, well, for that, I'll wait for the party to be together. But I'm just
Yeah.
talking about like natural remedies for like antitoxins and stuff.
Okay.
I want to look for some like herbs that might be growing around houses, under rocks, or anything like that.
Okay. It's going to be really difficult just because most of this town is built on stilts, which are like basically tree stumps sticking out of the water. And there's basically just wooden ramps that kind of lead to each house or house or dwelling. So you probably need to venture out of town in order to do that.
All right, then we'll hold off on that too.
Sure.
And I am gonna go and see if I can find Dominic Featherbright, the noble that sort of.
Oh, sure. Honestly, you'll have no problem because that building that he has is probably the most elegant in this town. So when you walk out of the Golden Gator, basically directly across this ramp and a little bit to the right, maybe just 2 places down, you can see his establishment. It's a little bit more gaudy than the rest, although you can tell it was built rather quickly. And what?
And just
oh yeah, sure.
Clarification question.
Yeah,
I know who he is. Does he know who I am?
He knows who you are, but you have not had quite an extensive conversation or anything. You guys know of each other, but have not. He's always kind of been like just walking around, being that administrative kind of individual, looking over everything. Awesome. Maybe just a hello passing by is probably as much as you guys have, known of each other.
Okay.
And what would Vix be doing?
Vix would probably like venture off to a corner or something, being left alone and nobody paying attention to him. And he would probably like light his candle on his staff, and try to play with his shadow a little while.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So this dwarf is in town lighting a candle on the staff, the recent candle that he had stolen from the inn, and is making some little shadow puppets and playing with his own shadow a little bit. Disguise self, how does it work? Is your shadow the shape of a dwarf, or is it the shape of a kobold?
I don't know, but I think it'd be funnier to be the shape of a kobold.
I think it would be. So yeah, you're disguised as a dwarf, but on the wall of this wooden structure, you can see this little kobold like making little hand motions and gestures, and some little children come walking by with this questioning look on their face as they then they run down the wooden ramp. Raz, you approach Franklin. Would you be going with any of these individuals if you weren't going on the outskirts of town? Is there anybody that you would stick with?
No, he's a little antisocial right now, so he's probably just gonna wait.
Just gonna chill at the tavern? Okay.
Drinking his questionable milk.
There you go. Excellent. So Raz, you make your way over to the estate of what seems to be Dominic Featherbright. Basically the only noble here, and you just approach the door. It is closed.
I would knock on the door.
Okay. As you knock, you hear footsteps seem to be coming down some stairs, and then the door opens and welcome, Raz. Was it?
Yes.
Oh.
And I'm assuming I'm talking to Dominic.
Yeah, you can tell it's him.
Okay.
He's kind of like a taller human man, probably pretty handsome. He's probably got I imagine kind of like longer hair down to his shoulders, straight, kind of blonde. Very nicely dressed, not as gaudy as you would expect for a noble. Maybe like he looks like a noble that doesn't mind getting his hands dirty a little bit. Like he's okay doing the job. But yeah, he's basically standing in front of you, and he looks a little stressed.
And what would be the proper way of addressing him?
You think a Sir Featherbright might be a good, or Sir Dominic. I don't know. I'm completely shooting from the hip there. I don't know.
Yes. So, Featherbright, I just arrived in town, and I just wanted to know if there was any, rules or regulations that had to be followed, or if you happen to have any, work available.
Oh, I, I see you've given up on the lockjaw.
It was, the crew was becoming a bit of a skeleton, and they were gonna start talking wages, so I figured it was time to, jump ship.
That's what I figured. see, we can't lose good people like you. It's, uh, well, I do have some discharge paperwork if you'd like to fill it out.
I mean, I wouldn't mind staying on if the ship can get moving again, but
Oh,
until then,
that's great.
figured I'd
That's
hang here.
fantastic news. Fantastic news. Oh, pardon me. Come on in, please. And he invites you in, and you walk in, and it's simply furnished, but it looks like it's pretty nice for a stranded startup village, in the middle of a moor.
Mhm.
You can tell that he's come from a family with wealth, and setting up in front of him, you can see that he's kind of going behind a desk that he has set up in the back, and he's going through some papers, and he kind of looks towards you and says, if you'd like, you could have a seat. And he points to kind of like a nice comfortable couch that he's got kind of set in the middle of the living area.
Thank you. Sit down.
He goes over, and you'll have to excuse me. I've been this whole fiasco is just getting out of control. I'm getting very frustrated.
It's not your fault.
Well,
or is it?
Well, I hope.
And I sort of laugh.
I hope not. He laughs back at you. Make an insight check for me.
I was just gonna say, can I roll insight?
Yeah, you can.
8 plus 5 is 13, right? That's math? Yeah.
You got the hunch that he is a pretty straightforward individual. You don't think anything is up with him. You do have a sense that he's kind of hiding something. Your nudge is that he's hiding something, but it may be just maybe out of protection or something. So, but he's kind of looking through, and he's got this notebook out, and he looks over at you, and do you see this? And he shows you this notebook, and in his notebook there's several sheets torn from the book. So I don't know if you realize this, Raz. You probably don't, and I'm probably putting way too much on your shoulders right now. But my father specifically told me that I was to take good notes during this mission. This lockjaw ship. This is the first of its kind. And
it's a very fine vessel.
It is. It's a little rough around the edges, and it could use some improvements. And that's what this notebook is. It's me keeping track of all the improvements that could be made. So when we get back from this trip, we can start possibly mass producing these things. Just think of the power and what we could do if we have more of these at our hands, and think of the money that we could make.
And the opportunities for opening new trade routes.
Absolutely. Well, it seems that some of my pages have been torn from my book, and I have no idea where they have gone.
So someone had stolen them.
I fear that perhaps, I don't know, I don't know if you felt it while you were aboard, but the captain, I just never felt like I could really trust him.
I mean, every man is different, and some are more reliable than others.
True. I don't know, there's just something about him. I mean, I know he's, up there in his years, and I think this was, my father hired him as kind of like, this is his last hurrah. I'm thinking that he thought it was going to be a very easy trip based on the information that my father had given him, and now that things have kind of gone south, he feels like, I don't know. I just feel like he's up to something. I don't know.
And you think he might have stolen your pages?
I think, but I'm not sure. Who else would want them?
Do you know when the pages went missing?
I don't know. It's been several days since I've written in this thing. I know it was sometime before I left the vessel itself.
Okay. Well, then it would make sense that it was someone who was still on the ship when you were there, obviously, but I would think in some ways unlikely that they would yet be on the ship if they were going to use the pages for some form of financial gain.
Perhaps. It is a good
Maybe we
point.
could look at a list of who was on the ship when you were there and who was still there when I left and possibly narrow it down a bit.
We could. He kind of looks over. Unfortunately, I don't have a record of these lists. That would be kept by the dredging administrator. That would be Valera. You remember Valera, right?
Of course.
Yeah, she was kind of the grunt worker. She was kind of like a younger half-elven woman. You remember her, always kind of had her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and was one of those people that was really stern with everybody, but you could tell like she was forcing it. Like that's not her true nature. But she was the one who was kind of like keeping the books and helping out
Was
everything.
she still on the ship when I left?
No, she was also headed to Woodhurst, and she has her own little office space in Woodhurst.
Okay. Well, perhaps I could connect with her and give her a list of who was still on the ship when I left, and then we could go from there.
Hey, sure, that would be great. I just can't believe all this that's happened. It's kind of caught me off guard.
Been a bit of a rough ride.
It has, very much so. I've been getting some interesting letters from back home. My father is none too happy, but there's not much I can do. I feel like my hands are tied.
Yeah, you don't want to fully abandon the region, and you also can't really move forward.
That's true.
We're all sort of stuck in a holding pattern.
I guess I just can't let go of holding on to hope.
Well, hope is one of the greatest gifts to humanity. If you were able to give up on it, it wouldn't mean much.
It's a shame we haven't gotten to speak more.
Well, I intend to stay in town for a bit, so perhaps we'll have more opportunities.
Oh, fantastic. I'll just, these discharge papers, I'll put those away for now. I think we need a good person like you.
Doesn't hurt that I can cook either, right?
Absolutely. That's one thing the Gru never complained about, was the cooking.
We had a good team.
Well,
a very good.
If you find any information, please keep me posted.
I'll let you know as soon as I learn anything.
Thank you.
And I would stand up and sort of do a sort of mini bow and then take my leave.
Okay. Silver, now with shield in hand, you walking by in town and you see your dwarven kobold shadowed friend playing in one of the alleys, the wooden stilted alleys.
Vix, what are you doing?
My name's not Vix.
It's me. You don't. Okay. What's your name then?
But Master Silver, I don't know if anybody's around.
Okay. Well, I mean, you don't really look like yourself. You can still be called the same thing. They don't really know your name of,
That's a good point.
Yeah. But what are you doing?
I'm playing with my shadow.
Silver, you notice that there's a bunch of children like standing around now, just watching and just in awe as he's making all these little shadow puppets. And sometimes when he makes some, then you see the kids like start cheering and stuff.
Making some friends, I see.
Huh?
You
And
gotta
I see
crown.
the kids, and I like panicked scurry towards Silver.
Oh, well, I guess the show's over, kids.
Some of the kids are like, oh, they kind of start like just trudging down the ramp.
Well, I'm going back to the tavern. You want to join me?
Why didn't you tell me they were there before?
I literally just got here and saw them there. So you should probably, keep an eye on your surroundings a little bit.
No, my shadow wanted to play, so I played.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going back to the tavern if you want to join me.
Okay.
I'll go back to the tavern that we were at, the Golden Gator, I think is what it's called.
That's what it was called, yeah.
Go
And
back there.
you guys see that Franklin is finishing off another glass of skeptical milk.
I'll
And
walk up and just sit down by him.
basically there's a lot of...
Hi, are we ready to head out?
I'm not sure. I don't know if we're heading out tonight or if we're going to in the morning. I guess we're just waiting for Raz to get back to see if she wants to accompany us.
Okay.
You guys can see that Barks has just kind of been staring at Franklin probably the whole time. Just taking a sip of his ale and putting it back down on the bar.
If I can, I'm gonna sit in between them.
Okay. Fair
'Cause I'm
enough.
rather big also, so.
Let's have Vix. Vix, you understand Draconic, right? As a
I
kobold,
believe I do. Yes.
and I'm sure Dragonborn you do. Okay.
Yes.
You guys all of a sudden, kind of in your mind, start to hear something strange. It sounds like whispered Draconic, but it's so almost far off in the distance that you can't even really hear what the words are saying. But it's kind of like a...
I'll immediately start looking around the bar to make sure I don't see anything
Yeah,
out of the ordinary.
you're kind of looking around and you don't see anything, but you can make a perception check if you'd like.
Sure.
I'm really spooked.
That is an 11.
11. Yeah, just you don't think any of these people in this establishment, especially Barks, they shouldn't know Draconic. They don't seem like to be the people that would know this language, and if they did, you could probably determine what the words were or what they were saying. This sounded distant, but almost distant in your mind.
Gonna turn and... Did you hear that, Franklin?
Hear what?
Are you talking about this voicey thing in our head?
You heard it too?
Yeah, I heard it too.
I pat him on the back, thinking that he had a frog in his throat. Just
It's kind of odd as you go to touch him. You like go through his back a little bit to touch the actual kobold. Barks just goes like this. His eyes like widen up.
Have you heard this voice before, Vix?
Have I? Probably not.
I haven't heard it either before, right?
No, you guys have never heard this before.
No.
I'm gonna go back outside and just look up into the sky and things like that.
Okay, as you're looking up in the sky, to your west, it's almost like you hear the same thing, but it seems to be directional as you're standing outside. It seems to be coming from the area, basically almost backtracking where you guys came from, but you hear it again.
I call Vix out here to see if he make sure I'm hearing in the right direction.
When I saw him getting up to go outside, I immediately tried to scurry somewhere and hide because I don't want anything to do with it.
Vix, where'd you go?
There's a dwarf hiding under one of the tables.
That's not a very good hiding spot, buddy.
I can't see you. You can't see me.
Right. Okay. Just keep that on the back of my mind. I don't know what to do with that. Okay.
About this time, I guess Raz, you'd be looking for Valera.
I think I would probably head back to the tavern to reconnect really quick,
Okay.
and then
Yeah,
go on from there.
about this time that Silver's kind of getting up, you walk back into the Golden Gator and rejoin your party, and see that your dwarven bright orange vest wearing friend is hiding underneath a table with patrons just kind of like looking under the table, wondering what's going on.
Vix, if you want to hide, you should wear something a little less high visibility.
I don't follow. What do you mean? This looks fine.
I'm just saying it's very noticeable.
I thought that was the point of wearing clothes.
Of course. And I just walk back to the bar.
All right, sure. You can see that Franklin is there. Silver kind of is standing up and looking around. He seems to be just kind of being very perceptive of his surroundings right now.
Is everything all right, Silver?
Do you hear that? The voice?
I haven't heard anything.
I hear a voice. It's coming from the west, from the direction we came. It's very strange.
How much have you been drinking?
Good point.
How many milks have I had by now?
Probably about 4 or 5, Franklin.
I've had 4.
Other than the questionable nature of that, I don't think we have to worry. I'm more worried about alcohol intake.
I crawl out from
like
under
2.
the table. And I take her hand. I haven't had any, and I heard it too.
Well, that answers that question. Doubt it's a shared delusion. You said it was coming back from
Sound like the way we came.
where we came. Franklin, do you have any way to communicate with anyone at the monastery to see if anyone there heard anything strange?
I would have to walk back.
I don't know. We could ask around, see if anything like this has happened before.
Well, I mean, it seems like so far it's only me and Vix that has heard this, so I don't know if anybody else would have heard it also. But, I mean, it's worth a shot.
I'd hate to go traipsing off into the wilderness after nothing, but
Oh, I'm not saying we have to go after it. I'm just saying I
Well,
heard something that way.
I'm also just saying if there is something we don't want to just, not find out what it
We
is.
could also still go find the frogs.
Are the frogs in the direction that the voice was coming from?
You think, Raz, that probably the deepest and kind of lowest points that Franklin was kind of describing would probably be in the direction of where the actual dredging ship is kind of parked right now. It's kind of stuck in one of the deeper recessed valleys,
Okay.
and is unable to move because you would know that coal has been recently being stolen from the ship, and they're having a hard time keeping their coal storages filled up, as it takes barges a long time to get from Yartar up to where you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, and is that sort of roughly into the west, or is that...
Yeah, roughly to the west.
Okay.
You guys kind of came from the northwest as you came down,
Okay.
and the canal is kind of going in that, from where you guys are standing, it's your west. So basically the canal, if you looked at a map, it's going in an easterly way, but you guys are kind of facing down on the map is what my logic was going. So yeah, excuse me, to your west is basically in the direction where the canal is being built.
Well, we could go go see if we can find some frogs, and that seems to also be the direction of the ship that I was aboard, which I might need to make a pit stop on before residing here a bit more permanently. So we could
All
kill
right,
3
let's
birds with one
go.
stone.
I get up and I start heading there.
Sounds good.
Before we leave, I do have one other person I need to connect with, if that's amenable.
Doesn't matter to me.
I suppose.
I will make it as quick as possible, and I would stand up and leave the bar as long as I don't see Valera in the bar.
Okay, yeah, you don't see her there. Would the rest of you be going with Raz?
Sure.
Unless she asked me to. No.
Okay, no for Silver.
I would definitely follow.
You'd follow? Okay. All right. So it looks like Silver is more intrigued by this voice that he keeps hearing and is trying to figure out more about that, while the rest of you head on to Valera's, which is a small office. It just looks like a small 1-story little wooden shack. As you get there, you're able to knock on the door, and she comes and opens the door and kind of looks at all of you, very frustrated, and what is it?
Could I talk to you privately for a moment? I have a question from Sir Featherbright.
Sure, come on in. And she just kind of turns her back and walks away, leaving the door open.
I would walk in and close the door behind me, kind of in their face.
Okay.
I like pick up one of my little floppy ears and I just hold it against the door,
Okay.
hoping that I can hear.
Okay.
What kind of condition is the house in?
I mean, it looks okay. I mean, it's just kind of like a wooden, imagine like a log cabin, kind of just like that.
Well, on any like of the edges or whatever that's broken, I cast Mending
Okay.
as I walk around the house.
Nice. So every little crack or minor imperfection in the construction work, you watch as you're listening, Vix, you can see that Franklin is walking around just repairing every single one of these little cracks, doing all these like incantations, and you watch as the cracks and everything heal, just like close up and everything. And as you're standing in there, Raz, you can see that she's also, much like Featherbright was, she's just in a frantic, like she's going around, she's like sorting through papers on her desk. She's got all these what looks like copies of different things that she's written to try to advertise to get more crew members. Mm-hmm. She's got a note sitting there. Send someone to shut Barks up. Yes. So she looks pretty frazzled and stressed. But what is it?
I was wondering if you had a copy of the crew manifest.
Oh my goodness! It could be buried under miles and miles of these sheets of parchment. How am I going to find it? Oh my goodness.
I don't mean to cause you trouble, but Sir Featherbright was wondering if you had a copy. He wanted me to be able to update it with who's still on the ship.
That's just like him. That's just like him. He could have just come over and asked me himself. My goodness. And she goes and she starts sorting through all these papers, and this is the last one I have, but it's not the most accurate and it's not up to date because, of this. And she points to her mess on her desk of all these like papers and pieces of parchment. This is what my life has become.
I am terribly sorry. I'm sure it's not easy working in these conditions.
Well, and now, you know what? On top of that, our bronze scout is missing.
That What is that? Do I know what that is?
You know that there was this invention that was brought on board to kind of scout ahead and kind of burrow in to find the best routes to carve through the moors, the ones that were less rocky. It's this invention that they bought from the gnomes that can kind of dig underground and carve and find all these routes. And they've been using it. But now it seems to have gone missing.
Seems as if everything with this ship is going missing.
Yeah, well, it seems like everybody needs to steal something to survive out here. And it figures I'm the one that ends up it falls on my shoulders.
Well, I was planning on trekking back to the ship for a bit to gather a bit of information if you have anything that you need brought back for that.
Well, if you can find the scout, it could be malfunctioning. It could be just a simple malfunction. If you could find it, please don't disable it.
No, of course not. Where was it last used, last seen?
Well, they sent it ahead in the dredging ship a few weeks back and never came back. It normally reports back within a day. It's been weeks. But, like the captain always is, he failed to tell me about this until the morning.
At some point, Franklin would absentmindedly walk in, continuing to mend everything.
Okay, so all of a sudden the door opens and then closes, and this turtle is just walking around the walls, like fixing all the inner cracks in the walls.
I would probably roll in because I was leaning on the
door. Nice. And
I would just turn to them and be like, "Do you mind?"
And who is this?
They guided me here.
Well,
I got a bit lost. There was a storm while I was coming from the ship.
Franklin,
the turtle.
What does he do? Wait. He's doing marvelous things to my interior. Wow.
I already fixed the outside.
That's like one of the best things that's happened to me in weeks. It looks pretty nice.
You're welcome. Mending.
It keeps mending everything.
I look at him and I look back at her, and then I cast Mage Hand, and I just start patting on the wall with Mage Hand.
So, wow, this. Do they clean as well?
I'm not sure. We haven't really been in much civilization. Just been tramping through the marsh.
Perhaps there is.
Just wait till I get the druid version of prestidigitation. Druid craft, I will be.
Perhaps they could be brought on board as cleaners on the ship. We do need some of those.
That is true. I think the last one left about a week before I did. So.
Yes.
Then,
and trust me, I've been working diligently to try to fill in those empty spaces. But there's.
Trust me, I know.
Not many people here in the moors, and the ones that I have are ones that have already quit and abandoned.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hard pool to draw from. Have you sent out information to other larger cities? See if you can get someone in on the dredges or on the barges.
I have. I've sent out some back to Yartar, hoping that they could get them distributed out, but it could take days, weeks, perhaps even months to get anyone out here.
Yeah. Well, I can see what we can do. We were planning on heading back to the ship for a bit and see if we can find anything about the Bronze Scout. Do you have any more information on it? What direction it was going?
Well, they sent it out ahead, so it would be probably more to basically your west. So it would be ahead of the ship.
We can see what we can find.
That sounds good. And she comes over, she stands next to Franklin as he's continuing to walk around and seeing the floating mage hand kind of just rubbing on the walls and stuff. Not bad. Not bad at all. You two keep it up.
Hearing that, I'm going to also start rubbing the wall with my hands.
I think I would grab if there was like a pen somewhere and um a blank piece of parchment and start writing down um a list of um who was still on the ship when I left,
Okay, sounds great.
compared to who's on the manifest that she has currently.
Yeah, and before you guys go to leave, she does tell you that if you're able to return this brown scout to us, not disabled, I'll be able to probably offer 50 gold pieces for its return.
We will certainly see what we can do.
And she kind of starts whispering a little bit, and she's like, "Please, this is really my first big job. And I feel like I'm messing it all up."
When she leans in, does she have any candles on her desk?
As a matter of fact, she does. A nice maroon colored one.
Oh, it's perfect. My mage hand is going to go steal it.
Okay, make a sleight of hand check for me.
That's not good. 5.
Your mage hand drops it on the floor, off the desk, and it starts to roll a little bit. And it rolls and it taps her on the side of the foot.
I'm still rubbing the wall.
Okay. Oh my goodness, they're cleaning so well that they're just knocking things off of my desk. That's okay. Probably most of that could be thrown in the trash by now.
Oh, I could take the candle if you don't want it.
Make a persuasion check.
Fell off the table. 12.
You have done a great job on my little office here. Sure, you can have the candle. I've got some others that I can use for light.
I run over and I scoop it up and run out the door.
Okay. That's an interesting dwarf you've got there.
Yeah, he is. While she's distracted with that, I'm going to date the copy of the manifest that I've created and then try and slip the older copy into my pocket.
Okay, make a sleight of hand check.
That is a 17 plus 7.
Oh yeah, you have no
24.
problem slipping that. Yeah, you do the old switcheroo, and you've got the original that she had given you, and it's now in your possession.
Perfect.
Nice. All right, so you guys make your way. I'm assuming back to the tavern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and actually,
Yeah.
Silver's kind of standing outside of the place. Much of the day has seemed to have passed. We're kind of probably around dinner time at this point, as Silver's kind of standing around, just looking towards the sky, looking to the west, kind of suspiciously. Some children are waiting by the alley where they saw Vix earlier, but they don't really see him, so they're just kind of this. You know how kids do whenever they see something interesting, they'll go back there every once in a while to check to see if it's back again.
So would this count as a short rest then for me?
Yes, it would. Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Yep. Anybody? This like whole kind of area in here was basically considered a short rest. Franklin in the bar was a short rest for you as well. So
I didn't lose anything I needed to get.
yeah, that's it.
I get my spell slot back.
Cool. So it's up to you guys what you'd like to do at this point.
I wave at them as they walk up.
I come running up to Silver, holding out my candle.
So you got another one. Just steal this one?
I tried.
You tried.
It didn't work out, then she gave it to me.
Oh. Well, that's convenient. So, how'd it go? Did you find the person you wanted to talk to?
Yep, I got the information I needed and have a possible way of getting us some more cash.
Awesome. So?
Of course, it depends on us finding something that has been missing for multiple weeks and is most likely underground and in a direction we aren't really sure of.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds easy.
Yep, very, very simple.
Master Silva, did you know you can get candles by rubbing walls?
by rubbing walls.
It's really cool.
I did not know that. I guess that's useful information. Thank you.
I've got so many episode titles for tonight.
So I mean, it's kind of getting dark, or it should be getting dark soon. Do we want to head out now, camp out there, or do we want to get a room here for the night?
Are there rooms available? I wouldn't mind sleeping in an actual bed.
I didn't ask.
You know, you guys have a hunch that there's probably not too many rooms available here, just because people who want to kind of get out of the elements a little bit instead of sleeping in these tent-like things probably take up most of the rooms. But Raz, you would know that there are plenty of empty bunks on the Lockjaw that aren't that bad.
Could we get there in a few hours?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if we don't mind traipsing through the forest for a bit, there are plenty of beds on the ship, and I need to head that way anyway.
This is a swamp, not a forest.
My apologies.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
We have to go in the dark.
Come on, Vix, you just got a new candle. That'll provide you some light.
You're right. I'll go.
It's not that bad. You stay behind me, and you'll be fine.
All right. So, is Franklin going to lead the group?
He doesn't know where the Lockjaw is.
Yeah, actually you do.
I do?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will lead the group there.
You know where it is. You just never kind of got close enough to give away who you were.
Okay.
So you know a pretty easy route. You follow a trail, kind of like an animal trail, as you go, and it's really only about maybe a mile and a half away from where Woodhurst is. So it doesn't take you very long at all to get there. And when you get close, you notice the ship. It's enormous. It looks like it's built from multiple materials, and has these two large, what look like exhaust pipes that kind of stick out of it. And it seems like there's still a little bit of smoke kind of pouring out of these exhaust pipes. Excuse me while I move my cat.
I thought I saw it.
she just wants so desperately to be on stream.
Well, she had her 1 second of fame.
Yes. And you guys head up there, and you can smell burning coal as you get close. The Lockjaw itself is kind of just, you can see behind it the cleared out area of what looks to be a deep canal. But in the front of it, you can see that there is still kind of pretty dense foliage in front of it. And you can see rocks kind of protruding out all around the moor type area. And the strange thing about this, and Raz, you were kind of familiar with this, is when you approach it, it kind of, here she is again. When you approach it, it kind of seems like it's abandoned, but it's kind of like idling almost.
Mm-hmm.
As you approach.
Are there any like ladders hanging down or anything like that we can climb up?
There's kind of like a wooden ramp that goes off of the side. And sorry, chat, for the cat butt. Twitch chat, there's mooning the webcam for everybody. And you guys are able to, there's a wooden ramp that basically leads you right onto the ship.
Okay.
Doesn't seem to be anybody guarding it or anything. It just seems like you could just.
I would just walk up it.
Oh yeah.
I belong here, so.
Okay. Right before you start to walk up the ramp, Silver and Vix, much louder this time, you start to hear these whispers again. Let's go. And some of it starts to make sense. And you hear, you keep hearing, Silver, the same thing over again. They keep saying the word come. Vix, you hear, "Bring him and lead."
I'm just gonna say in my mind, "Come where?" to see if I get a response.
Okay. You just hear more of the same.
Okay.
But it seems to be
standing
louder
still.
and directional a little bit to your west.
While there's still light, I'm gonna start collecting frogs.
Okay, make a survival check.
23.
Wow. Yeah, you kind of start wandering around the lockjaw, and you start scooping up all these little yellow spotted and blue spotted frogs. You think you probably bagged up about 10 of them within a few minutes. I mean, they're everywhere around here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then antitoxin stuff, so I can work on that overnight.
Okay, yeah, you're able to find some herbs that you know are used to create this based on your skills and your knowledge with your alchemy equipment and just your druid craft in general. So yeah, you're able to scoop up enough that you could probably make a few vials of antitoxin if you had the time to sit there and, spend some time doing it.
Well, we're gonna be going to bed here soon, so I may as well start.
Okay, sure.
Before I go to bed.
All right. Silver and Vix, anything?
Yeah, I turned to Vix. Did you hear that?
I heard it say, "Bring him and lead." I don't lead. I can't lead. That's too much pressure.
It's okay. And I pat him on the head. All I heard was "come." So,
Am I supposed to bring you?
do you know where we're supposed to go?
I have no idea.
Me either. Again, it came from the west, and I point in the direction it came from. Maybe as we get closer, it will give us more information.
I don't know if I want information anymore.
Why not? This is something very interesting. This has never happened to me before.
It normally doesn't happen to anyone.
That's why it's so interesting. We should see what it is.
You're crazy.
It's okay, Vix. We're all here together.
But we're all crazy.
Look, I caught frog.
Hey, those
Exactly.
Good job, Franklin.
The bag is like kind of moving around. Some of the frogs are still trying to jump around inside.
Can't remember how many we need of those, but we do need those, so good job.
I'm on the ship at this point.
Yes.
I'll follow her up.
Okay. All right.
I would sort of look around for any life present on the ship. Anyone that was visible.
Yeah, you see a couple people in the back. They seem to be tying up one of the rowboats to the back that some of the loggers have used to go out and take care of some. Whenever they get into some of these deep watery areas, they go out and kind of trim all the trees out of the way. Just seems like a couple people right there. You recognize one of them. He seemed to be kind of a jerk to you in the past. Kind of come off to you as kind of just a little bit standoffish. But, he's kind of a crewman, so sometimes they can be a little bit, rough around the edges. And other than that, you can just hear a lot of, what sounds to be like the captain in one of his moods again. You kind of got used to that being aboard from before.
Just wait till he sees a turtle.
Well, I suppose we should tell someone that you guys are on here.
Well, you lead the way.
Hate to approach the captain when he's in his moods. Is the head cook still on the ship? As of when I left?
Yeah, he was. I think I gave you. I think I gave you the name, but I didn't write it down.
I don't know if I got the name for him.
What did I say it was?
Just want to throw it out there. I don't look like a dwarf anymore.
Okay.
That's fine at this point, honestly. I don't know. I never got the name of the.
Okay, we'll just scratch it. We'll scratch it for right now, and we'll get back to the name next time. I'll call him Mr. Head Chef.
Fair enough.
Because I know
I would.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
would lead them down to the galley.
Okay.
And then find the head chef and be like, "Yo, these 3 people are with me."
Okay.
They're
Yeah,
cool.
you
We'll be here for
you
five.
when you walk in, he is frantically cooking and preparing. He's got food like all over his. He's kind of more of a heavier set guy. He's got food all over his apron. He's got the little chef's hat that he's sporting. He looks probably about middle-aged human, and he's just going around frantically. He looks like he's trying to balance 4 or 5 things at once. And as you walk in, he just takes off his chef hat slowly, puts it by his heart with 2 hands. You've come back. Thank the upper planes, you've come back.
I don't know how long I'm staying, but I can help you for tonight.
Oh, good. Here's your spatula. And he hands you a spatula and throws his hat back on really quick. It looks like he's in the middle of preparing dinner. And he has a pat.
These 3 are with me.
Oh.
They're fine. You
Oh.
don't want them to cook.
I can help
Hey.
also.
No, you
At this
don't want
point,
them to
I
cook.
will take
I have
anyone.
an extra hat.
And he starts just handing cooking utensils to all of you.
God.
I conjure up a mage hand to hold a cooking utensil as well.
Oh, what is that? Oh, no matter. It has a spoon. That's fine. Go stir that pot of stew over there, please.
It stirs the stew.
He's just walking around. He's trying to flip things on the griddle and all kinds of stuff. There's just all this stuff going on. He points. Oh, Franklin, you weren't down there, right? You're kind of working on.
I was following with everybody else.
So he kind of puts you over to like a side table where it looks like side salads are being prepared, and kind of points you over to the side salads to kind of start working on bowling up the cutting up the lettuce and getting all these side salads ready.
Okay.
And you guys are just frantically helping this chef. And Raz, you know that the food he is preparing is like way too much for the amount of crew members that are left on here. He likes to go big, and you've known that. This is just him being him.
Chef,
So
you really have to come.
Franklin doesn't do anything very fast, so
and also Vix, without being commanded what he should do, just as mage hand having been told what to do, is also stirring the pot
Okay.
with 2 hands.
So there are 3
It's
hands
like 3 hands
stirring
the
this pot of stew over the stove.
all in a different direction.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good. So yeah, slowly the turtle is cutting up lettuce and preparing vegetables to go into this side salad. It looks like he's working on the main course right now with sweat pouring down his face.
And I've gone into full assistant cook mode and chopping and dicing and stirring and just doing whatever needs doing.
Okay, and Silver, he gets you like kind of, you're over there grating cheese right now and preparing some different things to go on there. Everybody go ahead and make I don't know what cooking would be necessarily. What kind of skill check would that be?
Probably intelligence or wisdom is what I would think, but
Yeah, let's go.
I would think dexterity.
You think
or
dexterity?
yeah.
How about
Well, it's either a craft or profession from older systems, so either int or whiz.
yeah, let's do intelligence for this check. We'll go ahead on intelligence. And since you are proficient in that, Raz, you can go ahead and add your bonuses for your proficiency for that.
Okay.
12.
9.
19.
Whoa!
I'm
20.
totally sneaking some pieces of cheese as I'm grating it, by the way.
That's it.
Oh,
That's it. Yeah, you're grabbing some. You accidentally like grate your fingers a couple times, Silver, on the cheese grater.
Those cuts take forever to heal.
Franklin, other than going immensely slow during this process and kind of frustrating the head chef, because he's like looking over at you every once in a while and just being like, and, but he keeps going because he knows he doesn't have any other person to help him. So he doesn't say anything, but you can tell like your passive insight says he's getting really frustrated with you. Like it's almost like when he wants to run over and grab this stuff from you and start doing it himself.
Well, he hasn't told me to move faster. So.
You got kind of like a sense he's used to kind of like people knowing what they're doing. And Raz, you seem to have no problem at all. You're kind of like right back into the flow. And surprisingly enough, you look over and this little kobold with a mage hand doing this stirring is actually doing a really good job. He actually is brave enough to grab a couple ingredients and some herbs and spices and kind of dumping them in the stew. And you watch him like take some sips. It's actually doing a fine job. And
doing well, Vix.
You just
thanks. I didn't realize people were watching.
He just kind of looks over at you, Raz, and hey, well, you know he's in one of his moods, so I thought I'd go a little bit overboard this time.
Yeah, that is fair. How long has it lasted this time?
Most of the day. It seems like
Who's in one of their moods?
Oh, Captain Tuttle. He's just a little agitated. He gets that way from time to time.
Perhaps I should go say hi.
Why don't you continue to just chop up that lettuce? I think that would be the best thing for you right now. He kind of shoots you a look, Raz, and is like...
And I sort of nod at him like,
It's kind of like he's really not good at that either, but I'm going to put him there. That's what I'm going to do.
Perhaps after the captain has had some food, he'll become a bit more amicable and can talk to him.
Well, that's great. Well, seem to be very low on servers as well. Raz, I've been doing the cooking and the serving around here recently. Ever since and he kind of like looks at you a little bit and then looks around at the rest and then looks at the floor, and ever since my last helper had left me. You were the last one in the cooking staff that left him all alone.
I'm sorry, Chef. It's just they weren't going to pay me.
I know they don't do the same for prep chefs as they do for the head chef. I understand, but I am with the ship, so to speak. So I am here.
I mean, I don't plan on fully abandoning once they get moving again. I'm happy to come back, but at this point, there's just have to think of my future, you know.
Yeah, it's true. He looks at the rest of the group, still preparing food. He's like, well, they're.
When he looks at me, my mage hand disappears. The spoon falls into the pot.
Awesome, guys. That's fantastic.
And then I cast mage hand really fast to go back pot and pick up.
He grabs the spoon. That's so good. He looks at all of you like suspiciously and cautiously. He's like, well, I'll be honest, Raz. They are not the best looking in the world, but they may have to put on their great server faces for this evening. Do you think they could handle it?
Some of them, maybe. I would probably maybe put Franklin on dishes and keep him out of the yeah, I could see the sailors getting a bit rough, and he's delicate despite his hard shell.
Yes.
And perhaps if you put him on the prep dishes, he'll be done by the time everyone is done eating.
Oh, you know what? That is a great idea. See, we've missed you, Raz.
Well, I don't mind being back for a bit.
Oh,
I have some news from Woodhurst if you want to talk once we're all done here.
He starts to smell the air. Oh no. I'm burning it! And he starts running away. And that's where we're going to call tonight's episode. Good job, everybody. that was amazing. You guys end up working in a kitchen on on the ship.
I just want to also throw out there that I'm only 2 feet 5 inches tall, so I'm probably standing on top of the counter.
That's awesome.
That's
You
fair.
see, someone in the comments just said Server Franklin, so apparently they want us.
They may want it, but Raz definitely doesn't want it.
You know what I should have done? Looked for some special mushrooms out in the swamp
There
and
you go.
added them to the salad.
There you go. Some special mushrooms for the salad.
How else do you think you remain so happy all the time?
Well,
Fair.
thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight here at Proficiency Bonus. Once again, my name is Michael, the Dungeon Master here this evening. This has been Delve and Dash. This is our 1 hour and 10-minute episode weekly streaming, so you can get caught up and hang out with us each week without it being so much of a burden on your time. So you can catch episode 1 on our YouTube channel, and episode 2 will be up probably by this evening. So make sure you go ahead and check those out. And until next time, when you find yourself on the Lockjaw preparing some wonderful meals for what's left of the crew, and you're chopping up some lettuce very slowly, don't forget to add that proficiency bonus, guys. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Yep.